News Radio 840 WHAS coming up on today's Louisville Real Estate Show. Why Crystal is at war with her homeowner association. Also, rules you need to know about when buying a home and how to prevent dryer fires in your home. It is really one important subject. We want to bring it to your attention immediately. Hi, everybody. Bob Sokoler, owner of the Sokoler team, Remax Properties East. I am glad you joined us. I hope you're going to stick with us till the end of the day. Let us, by the end of the half hour, let us move forward. With us for this half hour, Randy Rocky. He's one of the head guys over at Swan Financial. You can reach Randy because they shop the loan to get you the best rate. His number is 645-0736. Also here, Chuck Crosby. He's owner of the Crosby Law Offices. They do real estate closings, wills, which are so important, powers of attorney, foreclosure defense, commissioner sales, and more. You can reach Chuck at 499-6360. And if you're thinking of selling your home, I would love to help you. There's no home too big, no home too small, and we work not only in the Louisville and surrounding counties, but also in southern Indiana. You can reach me on my cell phone at 376-5483 or 376-LIVE. You can also go to bobsellslouisville.com and fill out the form. And for a free instant analysis of what your home is worth, you can go to WeSellLouisville.com. Click on the top of the page, fill out the information, and we will get you an estimate via our computer almost instantly. All right, hope it's a good Sunday. Randy and Chuck, strap in. We got a lot of questions, and we'll start, by the way, a reminder, you can see a rebroadcast and listen to the show as well, but see it by going to LouisvilleAnswers.com, LouisvilleAnswers.com. And again, we're going to talk about how to prevent dryer fires in just a bit. Let's start with Chuck Crosby, again, the head guy at the Crosby Law Office, thank goodness, because, let's face it, his name's on the door.
Chuck, yeah, that always helps.
That does help. Sarah bought a home last year in Oldham County, and in this email she says she was starting to work in her yard last week after heavy rains found what appears to be a tunnel, or at least a cave, under the backyard. She's
Really?
not quite sure what to do, but she really wants to know, can she go back after the seller and say, hey, it needs to be filled in?
Well, it depends on what it is and whether or not the prior owner knew about it. How long ago was the sale? Did it say?
It says last year. She's not specific.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You get out into the counties, out into the country, and you can run into stuff like that. Old farms that used to have a gas tank underneath. Shoot, I even ran into one where there was an underground smokehouse. It was crazy. But whether it needs to be filled in, well, I'd get somebody to come out and take a look at it first to see what it is. Mm-hmm. And if the sellers knew about it, if the sellers didn't disclose it, well, then maybe you can get them to do that, but to help fill it in. But I'd find out what it is first.
I think you're right on target here, and let me point out that it could
be an old septic system,
or oil drum of some sort of fuel.
Well, that's
container.
what I was talking about. The old farms, they used to have those drums underneath the ground, and they'd to oil or to gas up the tractors and whatnot.
Yeah, right.
And that can actually be a hazardous waste issue.
Yes, and that falls into a whole new series of problems at that point, correct?
It does indeed, because you are liable for environmental issues, even if you didn't know about it. If your name's on the deed, you could have an issue.
So would you go back after the seller if that's the case?
If it were something huge, yeah, because the statute of limitations runs from when you knew or reasonably should have known. And I doubt anybody used ground penetrating radar as an inspection tool.
But you have to be able to prove, Chuck, that they knew about it. That's the key,
proof
right?
is always kind of neat in courts. But how are you going to do that? I'm sure there are ways. I can think of ways. But you got to find out what it is first. Find out what it would take to remedy the situation, and that's when you make the determination of whether you go against prior owner or.
Yep, I'm with you 100% there. Okay. All right, let's move on. Randy Rocky, Swan Financial. We've got lots of questions during this show with rules that have numbers in them. So we'll take these one at a time as we go throughout the show. Courtney sent us an email. I've been compiling these, as you'll see, for the past number of months. Courtney sent us emails recently asking, what is the 222 rule for mortgage? Have you got that?
Well, there's a couple things. You could have a 222 buy down, So
Well,
first,
let me feed them to you, and you can expand.
okay,
2 years of employment history means
you don't need 2 years of employment history.
so Courtney, you don't have
No,
a 222 rule.
no.
A
You
second
can,
job, you would need 2 years of employment history.
that is, if it's
Yeah,
not full time.
if it's not
If
full
it's
time.
full
Yep.
time,
Yep.
right? If it's part time,
Okay, so we only need how long for employment history?
zero.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. As long as
Yeah.
I have a letter that states that they're going to start at this date,
Yeah.
we can get them approved.
2 years of tax returns. True or false?
No, well, we can have 1 year of tax returns with Freddie Mac most of the time on self-employment. So if you're W-2, you don't usually use the tax return. So, but that would be more for a self-employed borrower.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then 2 months of bank statements. True on that?
If you use that bank,
Yeah.
if that's part of your down payment, and we have to source that, yes, we need 2 months.
2 months. So it's kind of like a zero, maybe 1 and 2, not a 222. All right, Courtney, that hopefully helps you because that's really important for anybody who's thinking about getting a new home and getting a mortgage. Yeah, a reminder for you if you want to see, and we really do believe in reviews. You got to look at reviews before you bring anybody in, right? And we're proud of our reviews, and we've made it very simple for you to see them. Go to LouisvilleZillow.com or LouisvilleGoogle.com. Those two locations will take you to our individual reviews, and we think you'll hopefully be as proud as we are with the reviews. Crystal writes in Chuck Crosby at the Crosby Law Offices that she lives in the Louisville area, and in this email she says she's at war with her homeowner association. She says the HOA wants a pickup truck parked in her driveway moved out of sight. Now, she is saying that it is her pickup truck and her home, and why should she have to move it? She's wondering if there is anything she can do to stop the harassment, as she calls it, by her HOA. Chuck?
Well, HOAs will have rules, and if in those rules it says that you can't have a particular type of vehicle, normally the ones I've seen, they'll say you can't park out front on the road. Norton's Commons rules. You know how restrictive they can be. A lot of times it'll be you can't have a work truck in the driveway or a truck with a sign on it. And I've known several HOAs that will enforce those, and they are able to enforce them if it's part of the restrictions. So first off, we'd have to find out what HOA it is. We'd have to get their restrictions and then see if that really is something there. I ran into one that a lot of these things fall into cracks. Obviously, restrictions and things like that are contemplating a particular situation, but there's unintended consequences. For instance, say that you can't have any work vans out in the driveway. Well, what if that work van is your personal car and you have, your logo on the side of it? Is that really a work truck? There's gray area there. So the question is, how has it been enforced? What's the course of dealing? Is this just the HOA getting particular because of who you are? Maybe it's, they had that meeting where, oh, well, we can't get them on this one. Let's try another one. In that case, there's always things you can do along those lines. But you first have to get the baseline and find out if indeed that is the regulation.
Okay. All right. Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. Norton Commons can be rather restrictive.
Yeah, they really can.
Yeah.
And once you take the deed, you've agreed to all those restrictions. So whether you like it or not, if those are the restrictions when you come in, you agreed to them.
Got it. Moving over to Randy Rocky, Swan Financial, again with numbers, lots of rules with numbers. Kevin asks in this email about something he read recently online. He's asking, what are the 3 C's in a mortgage? In considering your application, they look at a variety of factors. So have you got those? You want me to feed them to you?
I'd say credit report is one, right?
Okay. Credit? Capacity?
Capacity. Capacity meaning how much they qualify for?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, how much money you have in the bank, things like that.
Okay.
And then collateral is what I think is the 3rd C.
Okay.
So credit, capacity to own, and then collateral. Do you have, I guess, what type of collateral do you have that's available to you? Does that make sense?
0, 0, and 0.
Okay.
So 0 money down.
Yeah.
Well, you have to have an asset, a little bit of usually a 2-month reserve. So that's wrong. So it'd be about you if you have a $1,000 payment. Usually you need $2,000 in the average in a checking, savings, or retirement fund. And I guess that kind of goes with the assets, the collateral. So I think that all kind of sums that up, the CC&C.
Yeah.
But and credit. We could do no credit score. It's
okay.
a no credit score, and definitely can do a 550 credit score with 10% down, and 580 with 3.5% down.
Well, that's good. I mean, all around, that's actually excellent. A reminder, you can see a rebroadcast of this show, actually see it by going to LouisvilleAnswers.com. And if you are thinking of selling, we have a free, no obligation booklet that has hundreds of useful tips. If you'd like a copy, send me an email. bob@WeSellLouisville.com is the email address. Put selling tips in the subject line and send it to me. I'll send it right out to you via email. Chuck and Randy, have you cleaned your dryer vent recently?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good.
I have no idea. That's a Tracy question.
Okay. Well, of course, I get that. But it's very important. When we come back, we're going to talk about how to prevent dryer fires in your house. Very important. That's in just a couple of minutes. Continuing with us to the top of the hour, Randy Rocky, who is one of the head guys over at Swan Financial. They do a great job. They shop the loan to get you the very best rate. And you can reach Randy anytime at 645-0736. Also continuing with us, Chuck Crosby, who's the head guy over at the Crosby Law Office. They do a phenomenal job getting your loan closed. Not only does Chuck do real estate closings, but he does wills, which are so important, powers of attorney, foreclosure defense, commissioner sales, and more. You can reach Chuck on his office phone at 499-6360. And if you're thinking of selling your home now, in the future, I'd love to be able to help you. All you need to do is give me a buzz on my cell phone, 376-5483. Or 376-LIVE. Or you can also go to bobsellslouisville.com and fill out the questionnaire, and for a free, no obligation analysis of what your home is worth immediately via computer. But at the start, you can go to WeSellLouisville.com and click on the top of the page. We're back in a moment on News Radio 840 WHAS. News Radio 840 WHS. Thank you so much, Barbara Corcoran, Shark Tank fame, a mentor of mine, a friend, and I appreciate your friendship and everything you do with us over the years. Now, more than 10 years we've been working with Barbara over at Shark Tank. Continuing with us, Chuck Crosby. He is the head guy over at the Crosby Law Offices. They do a great job. If you're thinking of getting a home and you can pick your own closing attorney, Chuck is the guy you want to talk to. He does that, real estate closings, also with wills, powers of attorney, and more. You can reach Chuck directly on his cell phone, 499-6360. Also here, Randy Rocky, Swan Financial. They do a phenomenal job as well, shopping your loan to get you the very best rates. You can reach Randy anytime on his phone, 645-0736. And if you are thinking of selling or buying a home, I'd love to be able to help you. You can reach me on my cell phone day or night at 376-5483. That's also translates to 376-LIVE. Or go to bobsellslouisville.com and fill out the information. And you can also get a free instant analysis of what your home is worth by going to WeSellLouisville.com and clicking on the top of the page. You know, it's a hidden danger, but we really need to address this. According to a 2020 report by the National Fire Protection Association, between the years of 2014 and 2018, 13,820 home fires per year were caused by dryers. And typically what causes fires are clogged lint filters. You could also have a blocked dryer duct. Putting the wrong materials in the dryer might be a big problem as well. Or drying items, and you would think this would be a no-brainer, but drying items with flammables that are embedded in them. And that happens if you're soaking up some sort of flammable material and then you put it in the dryer. Or stop using the wrong type of dryer duct. And I know that Brett Lawler at Home Team Inspection, who's one of our people, will tell you that type of that accordion-style duct that's white, not so good. You need a metal duct. And I don't know if Randy, you or Chuck have done this, but it's important. Also, mechanical or electrical failure is a problem for many dryers. Tips for minimizing dryer fires. Sometimes there are telltale signs that dryer fire is on the horizon, but sometimes it may occur randomly. The more prepared you are to combat the dryer fires, the more likely you are to be able to keep from having a problem. So you want to clean that little lint filter in between each time you do a load of drying. Also clean the dryer duct at least twice a year. And there are
Twice a year.
Twice a year. And there's some Amazon, if you do dryer duct cleaning, there's some things you can actually buy that attach to your vacuum cleaner that you can insert into the dryer where the vent trap is, and also in the back to suck out lint that's in there. I've done that. It's amazing how much stuff is in there. Also, pay attention to how the dryer is operating. If it takes longer to dry clothes, it might be that you got a clogged filter. Something is wrong. You might want to also consider installing a smoke detector in the laundry room. You also want to check the exterior exhaust vents so that when you're doing a load of drying, especially on a colder day, you can see the smoke or humidity going up through the dryer vent, wherever it might be. So those are some of the key things. And you might want to think, if you got a gas dryer, to have that inspected as well. And those older dryers, you might want to just have a service call anyway for a tune-up. So those are some things we would suggest that you do with keeping yourself safe and preventing a dryer fire. We're going back over to Chuck Crosby at the Crosby Law Office for this next email that came in. Amy sent us this, and she's wondering, what are some of the strange deed conditions that have been in your career? So deed conditions. So Chuck, I'm going to give you some time to think about this for a moment, but I did some research online, and there's some unusual ones. There was one closing in the country, in the United States, where there was a condition that they required the home to only be sold to someone named Bob. I am not kidding. I did not make this up. Only named Bob. A condition where the property required the new owners to maintain the gnome, those little statues collection. Yeah. And then there was a restriction stating the land must always have a goat living on it. So those are some I found. So Chuck, what about you? Have you had any unusual ones?
Well, yeah, along the lines of conveyances, I remember one was conveyed to our Lord Jesus Christ, KJV 1611, which, if you know anything about the Ruckmanite arguments, means something. But deed restrictions are kind of an interesting thing. Mm-hmm. Back a couple 300 years ago, it was a big thing in a will to say that when I die, I want my property, I want this real estate to stay in my family. So how do you do that? You put a fee tail on it, is what they called it, and you would say to Bob and his heirs, meaning he can't convey out to anybody else. I think that whole TV show Downton Abbey was premised on a similar item. But fee tails, of course, were determined not to be valid any longer. You can't reach back from the grave and prevent property from going where it needs to go. But I did do a title one time on a piece of property where Dad wrote out the deed to daughter, and he said she can have this property only so long as she does not marry. And then he names this guy and goes into this really long rant about why he hated this guy so much. It was really kind of fun. Around the Masonic home area, a lot of properties would be deeded back and forth, and they would have the usual restrictions against, say, livestock and chicken, and then it would name ethnic demographics that were not allowed there. And it could be the ones that I've seen most commonly are African Americans and folks of Jewish descent. There were just a bunch of them back then. Of course, those are invalid, but I'm always reminded when I see things like that, because if you go back far enough, you'll see a lot of that. But Richard Nixon, for all his faults, he was also a real estate lawyer in Virginia, and he would write deeds, and those deeds would contain such restrictions. And so even though from a political standpoint, he wasn't against a variety of demographics, they tried to hang that on his head as you're a racist, you're a this, that, or the other because you wrote deeds that had all this stuff in it. So kind of a historical tidbit there. Yeah. But yeah, deed restrictions, there's a lot of them out there. They can be fun.
A reminder, you can sign up for our bi-monthly video updates. We do them on a regular basis. Go to WeSellLouisville.tv and fill out the form there, WeSellLouisville.tv. Randy Rocky, Swan Financial. Chelsea will be buying her second home this year in her lifetime, and she is wondering in this email she sent us if the 70/30 rule is still in effect for mortgages. 70/30, is it like you don't spend 30% of your gross monthly income on housing? Is that still around?
No.
Okay.
We have people on VA loans spending as much as 55%, 57%, and
Whoa.
FHA the same will be
Wow.
their income.
So, Chelsea, this is great information because this is the popular opinion by a lot of people that they think, okay, I got to do 30% of my income. For those of you who have thought about that, including Chelsea, it no longer is needed, which is great news. All right, good. Moving forward, Chuck Crosby Law Office. Andrea sent us an email saying that she just got divorced from her husband of 15 years. And in the divorce decree, it requires he remove his name from the deed, which will allow her to sell the house on her own. Now, Andrea says she listed it, she got an offer. The buyer did a walkthrough just before closing the day before, and the toilets were clogged. She called a plumber in, and the plumber is thinking someone may have poured something like cement into the drain. And the problem is she can't prove what we all may be thinking, that it was her ex-husband. So she's wondering, how does she proceed with something like this? Or is she just out of luck?
Okay, so she thinks the ex might have poured cement down the toilet. Well, first off, you got to get it fixed. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You're not going to sell the house with that kind of a clog. I assume it can be fixed. I've heard of this. This is usually it's tenants that get evicted will do something like that. Had one case where they did. It seemed like it got fixed pretty easily. I don't think it solidifies quite that way.
The same way, yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't think it solidifies if it's in a constantly wet, but it'll mess things up, I'm sure. How do you go? Get it fixed. That's the first thing. Find out how. Then you have a damage amount, right? Because you can't just go into court and say, I want you to slap them around a little bit. You got to go in and say, hey, I want X amount of money. Everything's reduced to a dollar amount. Typically. So get that dollar amount. And then once you've got that, see what evidence you've got that it happened. Maybe he got on social media one time and said, oh, hey, I left a surprise down the drains for the ex, that kind of thing. But short of having anything like that, I don't know what you're going to do to hang it on anybody unless you've got video cameras,
right?
Or somebody did something stupid like saying I did it, which happens.
So just quickly here, Chuck, and I know you're not promoting this, but if there's a situation like that happening between a couple of and if one of the couples wants to put a video camera up, these days they're pretty easily to come by.
Yeah.
Is it illegal for as long as one person knows that there's a camera?
As long as one person knows about it, it's not being done for an illegal purpose, i.e., putting cameras in bathrooms. Yeah, you're getting
not good.
Yeah, you're getting in a real weird situation there.
Yeah. All right, so hopefully that will help.
Yeah.
All right, time for one more question. Randy Rocky, Alex is researching his options in this email. He's behind in his payments, heard something about a 120 rule for mortgages. I think he's referring to filing for foreclosure. The servicer may not make a first notice until 120 days. Is that what I think he's thinking about?
I think so, but again, he needs to call the servicer. That's very important. I'm sure Chuck can put some thought in this. Have a comment on this as well. But the thing is to get with the servicer right away and go, okay, what do I need to do to stay out of foreclosure, and how can we resolve this so I keep my home? And they have maybe a couple of options. So that is the first thing to do, is make sure you communicate with the person servicing the loan.
Got it. And the second thing is, because you can't do a partial cleanup on it, you have to pay it all off, correct? It's not like... Right.
Yeah, they won't take partial payments on anything, and it goes first towards the interest, then towards the principal, and then towards any other payments out there. So even if you try and calculate it, you're going to get it wrong. Just get a number from them. but there actually is an outfit in Kentucky called Save My Kentucky Home. You just Google that, and they actually provide great services. I've seen them get involved. They negotiate things with the bank. The bank doesn't have to do it, but they don't make money by doing the foreclosure. So they'll talk to them. And I've seen other loans to make up for this. Like partial claims from FHA, that kind of thing. And Save My Kentucky Home has a really good footprint in that area.
Yeah, in fact, I remember every time we do a closing in the past number of years, you've always say there's this available. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
If you get into trouble, these are the people to ask questions. I mean, it's a great service. I used to not be that thrilled with them, back when they first came out, but by God, I've seen them pull some miracles out of the hat.
That's
I love
awesome.
that. Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
We're out of time, folks. My thanks to Chuck Crosby, head guy over at the Crosby Law Offices. They do real estate closings, wills, powers of attorney, and more. You can reach Chuck at 499-6360. Also, my thanks to Randy Rocky over at Swan Financial. They shop your loan to get you the best rates. You can call Randy and his folks at 645-0736. And if you're thinking of selling your home now or in the near future or even beyond, I'd love to help you. No home too big, no home too small. I work both in the Louisville surrounding counties and in southern Indiana. You can reach me just about any time at 502-376-5483. That's 376-LIVE. Or go to bobsellslouisville.com and fill out the form. And, of course, for that free, no-obligation analysis of what your home is worth, head over to WeSellLouisville.com and click on the top of the page and fill out the form. That's it. We'll see you next Sunday right here on News Radio 840 WHAS.